You're welcome back. So let's have that food production conversation with Tunde Banjoko. He's the managing director of Banjoko Motunde Farms now. Good morning, Mr. Banjoko. Well, unfortunately, you were supposed to be in the studio, but the realities of our time stopped you.
Wow, I tried.
I know. Well, let's talk about boosting food production. We hear a lot of effort by the government, even by the Central Bank of Nigeria. As a farmer, which of them have you benefited from?
Oh, okay. In all honesty, we participated in one of the Anchor Bora scheme, and we took, 2.5 million. I think that was last year. So to support our processing in Ogun State. So I benefited from that.
So,
did you hear me, Ini?
Yes, I heard you. I heard you say you benefited from the Anchor Borrowers program, because some farmers have said that as beautiful and promising as some of these plans and strategies are, accessing it could be difficult or challenging, but that's not your experience, I guess.
And that's my experience. It wasn't easy because, if you look at the scheme I applied for, we were asked to apply. We applied in 2018, December 2018, and we were told about 2-3 months after, the facility will be ready. We were promised 10 million for processing and production, but 3 years, or that's 3 years after, we got 2.5 million. After several reviews, changing policy and all that. So I will still say the process is still a bit cumbersome. It's not that straightforward. And it's something that, a lot of people that we even started the processing together had to pull out along the line. So it's still a bit tedious. It can be reviewed to be much more easier and accessible for people.
Would you say that, in the face of food insecurity, or the threat of food insecurity, which has been exacerbated by the war going on in Ukraine, would you say that this is a major constraint to boosting food production in Nigeria, or are there other factors that are mitigating this boosting of production?
Looking at, the effect of the Russia-Ukraine war, February 24, the military invasion by Russia into Ukraine started, and that affected us because for us as a nation, for example, we produce less than 2% of the grains we import in terms of maize, especially wheat. 30% of the world wheat is from Russia and Ukraine. 20% of our maize, of the world maize, is from Russia and Ukraine. For us in Nigeria, for example, we consume about 6 million tons of wheat, and we produce less than 100,000. We just increased from 55,000 to 99,000. So to say, the least, the effect is much, and we are still not doing as much as we can do as a nation. So it's really a challenging time. We are not doing our best as a nation. And I think it calls for review at this critical time.
So what should we be doing? You're a farmer. What should we be doing?
Okay, so like I said, we need 6 million metric tons of wheat, for example. We are producing about 99,000. So what we should be doing first, we should be investing more as a nation. The private sector should also invest more. I love what the CBN is doing at the moment. The CBN, at least this year, they are pumping about 42 billion to cultivate about 312,000 hectares to increase our production to about 400,000 tons. And that's laudable. That's what we should be doing as individuals now, and that's what we should be doing even as a nation now. When we look at the numbers, looking at what we spent on importation of wheat, for example, in 2020, we spent close to 787 billion. In 2021, between January and September, we spent about 898 billion on wheat importation alone. In 2021, we spent about 721 million on milk importation. So that's telling us what we should be doing as a nation and as individuals is to start investing in those commodity that is taking our foreign exchange and causing some of the pains and hardship. It's bringing pressure on our foreign reserve, on the currency. And so that's what I believe we should be doing now as a nation. We should look at all those crops that we've been spending a lot importing. We should start cultivating them locally because we have all it takes to do them.
Yeah, so we have all it takes. We have the effort by the CBN. We have the one from the federal government. What's really stopping us? I mean, we've seen a lot of countries at this time, especially since the war started. We've seen food protectionism. We've seen crop protectionism. We've seen countries actually strategize, to ensure that there's food for their people. So we know what our problems are. We have talked about solutions. What's stopping the implementation? We have the land. We do have infrastructure to an extent. What's stopping us, really?
By what you said, Enid, what's stopping us, I think, is the political will that we are now lacking. Let's look at the amount we spend on. I'll pick on those two products that we largely import from Russia and Ukraine. Looking at how much we spend on importing wheat and how much we spend importing maize as a nation. If that same money, if we have, is even at times more than what is budgeted for agriculture. We are budgeting about 291 billion for the entire agri industry, and we are spending over close to 900 billion importing wheat alone in a year. So meaning we must have the political will. And you know why? I was involved in some conversation with some farmers in Jigawa, for example, and they were talking about even some of the meager amount that is being budgeted for some of these crops do not get to the real farmers. So those are the things stopping us. When we look at the budgeting is, even though it's not enough, but if that which has been budgeted will still get to the real farmers. And so that talks about the monitoring and evaluation process. That has to really be looked into. If the money that is budgeted can get to those that needs it for production, then some of the issues we are having, some of the numbers we are contending with will start changing. So that's what I think is a major thing. And then there has to be some measure of comfort for investors. A private investor wants to come into a sector and be sure that whatever they are bringing on board is going to come back to them. So anybody coming into the system wants to be assured of stability. Before, for example, Borno State used to be our highest producer of wheat, giving us about 40%. But because of the insecurity now in Borno State, Jigawa has picked up. And most of these commodities we are talking about today, they come from the northeast and the northwest, where they are really battling the security situation in Nigeria. So the political will is there. And then let's review the monitoring and the evaluation and the way the means these things are being disbursed. I've always advocated and I've always spoken that I believe it should be a public-private partnership project where the government is designing. They are also working in sync with the private sectors, and things can be properly evaluated. The money can get to those who need it, and the country will be better off for it. So I think it's the political will, and the processes should be reviewed. That's my thought.
Yeah, and well, it looks like even that political will at this time, when election is just around the corner, has even been diverted even more to politicking at this time.
So governance seems to be absent for now. And then when you also look at it, we talk about the federal government, most of the state government, what are they doing about agriculture? Most of the local government, what are they doing about agriculture? So if we keep focusing on the federal, the center, then we'll be limited. And that's what we need to encourage the private sector to come into the into the space and to change the numbers and all we are experiencing at the moment.
All right, Mr. Tunde Banjoko, thank you so much, Managing Director of Omotunde Banjoko Farms. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We do hope that, well, even in the midst of the politicking, that food security will get some attention.
It will be. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ine, for having me.
Thank you, too.